Today is the 4th day of June, 2020. And these calls began 10 weeks ago today, maybe 11 weeks ago. I guess it's the 11th session we've had on successfulpeople.com. Started on the 26th of March, and this is the first time I've ever held a class like this. And welcome. People seem to be showing up every single week. The classes are good to see everybody here every single week. Let me just show you on the 26th of March what we were talking about then. And let me share my PowerPoint with you. And this was the 26th of March. We called it, at that time, they hadn't really named the call of the successfulpeople.com. We called it emergence, like we're in the middle of an emergency. And do you remember the emergency? It was on the 11th day of March that they named our virus, coronavirus, COVID-19. They named it a pandemic. And a pandemic means that a lot of people die. And at that time, I just realized, frankly, that life is a pandemic. Everybody dies in life. Sometimes a little earlier than we would like it to be, but life is a pandemic. And so we started our trainings there. I'm the author of these many books. Some of you have read these books, and I hope that you have one or two that's your favorite, that you pick it up and read it from time to time. If you're in some country around the world, it's been translated into dozens of languages, sold millions and millions of copies. We have thousands and thousands of millionaires from this book right here, from these books right here. I was listening while we showed up. Somebody was talking in the background and said, Robert Allen is the guy who wrote that book, Nothing Down, and I bought 100 properties. Whoever that person is, you'll have to put it in the chat and tell me how we can connect. I'd love to talk with you about that. I just was off on a call that I did just this last week from somebody I'd never heard of before in my entire life. And in 1996, he got a copy of Multiple Streams of Income and went off San Antonio, Texas, and bought 45 houses. In that year, 65 houses in the next year, and now over 100 houses in the year after that. He's bought thousands of properties since then, and it just goes on and on and on. So I'm honored to say that these books that I've written have been used by many people around the world and created great success for many people. It's been a wake-up call this spring, hasn't it? And we got locked down. It was a wake-up call for all of us. And whether you're an employee, this was the PowerPoint that I showed on the 26th of March. And this was 11 weeks ago. So the time's flying by. We're in June now. So whether you're an employee worried about your job or a small business owner worried about your business, and just think about how many hundreds of thousands of businesses have closed down permanently in the last 11 weeks. And how many investors are worried about their retirement savings? Some people made money, some people lost a lot of money, some people lost businesses. There's one thing we know for sure, life happens, life is a pandemic. And this was the screenshot I took from the Johns Hopkins University of Medicine on the 26th day of March when we started these calls. And as you can see, there are 523,000 confirmed cases worldwide, 23,000 deaths. And in America, right below the 23,000, you could say, oh, that was in Italy. And let's see, how many were in America? I don't even know if it says how many were in America. Oh, well, in New York, there was 281. Let's see, oh, yeah, doesn't even say how many deaths there were in America, frankly, at that point. This is the chart today. Let's see if this is the chart today. This is 11 weeks later. 6 million people have been affected, 388,000 deaths. Think about that. hundreds of thousands of people woke up on the 11th day of March when they announced the pandemic, not knowing that they would not live for another 90 days, that it was over. Most people were in their older ages, yes, but they had grandchildren, they had families, and 388,000 of them. And in America, right below that, you see 765 deaths in America alone. 100,000 people. Think of all the funerals and all the things that went on as a result of this sudden storm, as I talk about in my book, The Four Maps. And if you don't have a copy of The Four Maps, you should get a copy of it. I have uploaded it onto all the calls we've done here. So if you didn't get a copy of it, send me an email to bestsellerbob@gmail.com and I'll send you a copy. Bottom line is, a sudden storm happened and our lives got turned upside down. And so we get to choose what we make of that, right? We can either be something that works for us, and our well-laid plans got upended, wasn't what we expected. And in the last 11 weeks, some people lost fortunes, some people made fortunes in the very same 11 weeks from the same cause. Some people they were victims and they felt victimized, and they blamed whatever place the virus came from. Then over the last couple of weeks, because of this tragic murder of this gentleman, the people have been rioting all over the United States. Talk about another sudden storm, the worst that we've seen in decades, maybe centuries in our country. So the sudden storms are always there. When you wake up in the morning, you have to decide today, am I going to be a victim or am I going to be a victor? Do I want to grow my money trees, and do I want to grow my prosperity? Do I want to be better tomorrow than I am today? Because in the middle of this crisis, just think back over the crises we've had in the last century. Can you imagine? There have been a lot worse crises in the last century, in the last 100 years. There have been the First World War, and then the pandemic of 1918. It killed hundreds and hundreds of thousands of people. There was the Depression, and that was a 10-year mess. And then there was the Second World War, and that was 6 or 8 years. And then there was a Korean War, and there was a Vietnam War. Hey, there's always stuff going on. And you have to, when you wake up in the morning, you have to decide, do I want my ideal lifestyle or don't I? If I do want my ideal lifestyle, then I got to do something about it. I got to create something today. Yeah. Because there's going to be crisis mode constantly all around you. It's either the economy is having its problems, or the world's having its health problems, or you're having your own personal challenge. It could be a relationship challenge. It could be a health challenge. It could be a money issue. It could be a job issue. There's just, life is designed for crises. I'm a strong believer in a higher power, and people in the middle of times like this, they say, God, how could you do this to us? How could you create this, allow these terrible things to happen constantly? How could you do this? Well, also good things happen from this. People learn, they grow. They are forced outside of their comfort zones. People get comfortable. It's just human nature for us to just get comfortable, to kind of settle in, and where we get used to the kind of money we're making, and then we get thrown outside our comfort zone, and we either become a victim or a victor. And so we get to decide, whether the fear is going to stop us. Fear is expensive. We talked about fear last week. Went to pretty great detail on the 5 basic fears that stop people. And some people get shut down and some people get empowered by it. Because sometimes when you're forced out of your comfort zone, you have to make change. You can't stay where you're at. You have to make change. And so this call is about successful people. If you're here, it's because you're successful. Why are you successful? Because you're investing this time in yourself. And you're just decide something you're going to create. Now, in life, there are 2 kinds of people. There are entrepreneurs and there are employees. So what are you? If you're an entrepreneur, that means you have to find a problem and you have to sell the solution to that problem to people who are urgently needing it right now. And in the middle of this crisis, some people have figured out they needed masks, so they went and got some masks, and they sold the masks. They found a solution to the problem. That's what entrepreneurs do. Now, are you an entrepreneur or an employee? If you're an entrepreneur, you're 1 in 7 who is an entrepreneur. 1 in 7. 6 in 7 are employees. 6 in 7 want, the primary thing they want is security. We kind of touched on this last week. For those of you who are brand new, who just joined with us today, maybe this is your first time here, so I'm kind of repeating myself. If you're an entrepreneur, you're looking for problems to solve, and you're looking for a way to profit from those problems. And therefore, what better time than the middle of this unbelievable problem hurricane we're going through for people to be searching and Googling, because they've had a lot of time. I've been stuck at home to search for answers to the problems they've got, so it just happens. So as an entrepreneur, you find a solution. As an employee, well, millions and millions of people got thrown out of work. And has this been a wake-up call for you? If you're an employee, you're going to get your unemployment check, but that's going to run out. And then what are you going to do? You're going to go get another job? Really? Is that what you want to do? No, you want to take control of your own destiny. You got to control it. You have to be the one that decides how you make the money, when you make the money, how much money you want to make. You be in control. So that's what we do here every week. We talk about ways you can get in control of your life. Okay. So I get it. My life is turned upside down, just like everybody else. I had a very, very successful international speaking business, making big money for big speeches I do all around the world. And guess what? Dried up instantly. Can't travel, can't fly to China, can't fly to Russia. So we have to pivot. So have you pivoted? Well, when you pivot, you have to figure out something to sell, So as I talk about in these books, Multiple Streams of Income, you have to turn these lemon times into lemonade, because we have no choice. And that's what crisis is all about. That's why the greatest lessons in your life you're going to find happen during times like this, when you get to choose whether you're a victim or a victor. If you're become a victor, that means you figure out how to stretch outside your comfort zone. You become a better, bigger person. You become a person who handles the fear, who just has to deal with it, just like get over it. And this is what people do who are victors. Okay, so I've been showing people how to do these breakthroughs, for the better part of 40 years. And so I'm honored that you would spend this time with me, and thank you very much. So these books that I've written have changed lots of lives. So I'm gonna tell you about a book that I wrote in the last 90 days. It's called Idea to Income. Now, I had this intuition. Have you ever had one where you kind of know something's happening, you know. In my life, I've had some major intuitive surges. And I want to ask you about yours, where you just kind of sense something big is about to take place, something going to happen. When I wrote my first book, it was a book, it's called Nothing Down, that you might have heard of before, How to Buy Real Estate with Little or No Money Down. It's sold millions of copies, read by millions of people, sold over 1 million copies. I had a hunch. It's time to write your book now. I shared some of this story with us a couple of weeks ago. The hunch was really a signal. And I personally think it was a higher power signal. And I was, as an investment counselor, I was buying and selling real estate, and I was helping other people, and I was making commissions. And I'd sell an investment property to somebody, and I'd make a commission, and I'd sit there at the closing table, and the seller would say, you know, we're short a little bit of money, and they would look to me as the real estate commission person, and they would give me a commission dectomy. Have you ever heard of that before? That's where they say at the closing table, we're short $5,000. Looks like it's going to come out of your commission, Bob. And that wasn't fun. That's happened to me, because when you do big deals, and the commissions are a little larger, sometimes they look at the real estate agent involved. So I'd been, you know, buying and selling, and myself buying a lot of real estate, also becoming an agent to help other people buy real estate. And I had this hunch. It was driving between Salt Lake City and Provo. I was living in Provo, Utah. And this hunch comes to me. It says, it's time to write your book now. It's time to write your book now. Now that's the way I heard it. It was probably not quite that blatant. It was just a whisper. But I had been in Stephen Covey's class at BYU, and the famous Stephen Covey of the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, he was my teacher. And he had told us to write our goals down. I wrote down I wanted to write a book, and I wanted to go scuba diving, and I wanted to go parachuting. And I did all 3 of those things. Writing down that goal was 1974, I think. 72 probably. And I wrote it down, and then I went and got my master's in business. And when I graduated with my master's, it was a recession just like this now. 74 was the previous worst recession we had since 2008. So 2008 was horrible. 1974 was the previous one. I graduated, just like all these people are graduating right now, in the middle of this pandemic. And you say, oh, these poor people, these victims or victors. And for me, nobody would hire. Nobody was hiring anything. I got my master's degree, and in business, I wanted to work for Procter & Gamble. They flew me to Cincinnati to go and interview with Procter & Gamble to please don't squeeze the Charmin, you know, those kind of brands, Tide and all that. And they put me up in a nice hotel and fed me a fabulous meal, and then sent me a nice letter that said, Robert, you don't belong here, brother. You just don't belong here. And I went to lots of different interviews and sent out lots of letters. I got 30 major rejections, 30 rejections from General Foods, General Mills, General Electric, General Motors, and generally everybody that I sent that letter to. And I said, and it devastated me. So for those students, and if you have some of your kids, or you know some children, some students that have graduated in the middle of this time, and you realize that they had their, 6 months ago, they were ready to graduate, come into the world, into a booming economy. Now it's dead. Sudden storm, sudden storm. So what do you do? Well, what I did is I had read a book on real estate investing, how to make money with $1,000. And so I had $1,000 to my name. That's it. And I went and bought my first property, and then my second, third, and fourth, and fifth. The rest is history. Then I had this hunch after 4 years of buying real estate and buying dozens and dozens of properties and getting my net worth to $1 million net worth in 1978. So that's 40 plus years ago. It's time to write your book now. Now, some of you are going to have the same thought. It's time to write your book now. For me, I believe it was an inspiration, not an intuition. And there's kind of slight difference between those two. Intuition is sometimes where your wisdom and your experience and everything you've ever learned and everything you've ever seen, every class you've ever been to, every television show you've ever watched, every book you've ever read is inside your brain in that magnificent repository of everything you've ever experienced in your entire life. And that's in your subconscious. And, you know, sometimes you send a question to yourself, you ask yourself a question, what should I do to get myself out of this hole I'm in? And sometimes your intuition bubbles up an answer. And it's an intuition, you have this hunch, you kind of know it, you know? And inspiration is slightly different because now you're tapping into the vast universe who knows everything and knows your name. Now, I'm speaking my own truth, my own beliefs. So these may not match yours and maybe actually even offend some of you. But I'm just, you're here. I'll just tell you what's true for me. And I believe in a higher power. I believe he knows your name. He knows my name. He knows exactly what plans, what things we could do with our life if we would just listen to our own intuition and our own inspiration. And if we're being nudged constantly, you are being nudged. Sometimes unconsciously, sometimes you just have these feelings like something you got to do, and you know, sometimes. So is that you? Is that your own wisdom kind of guiding you? Is that the wisdom of the universe kind of guiding you? Are there angels around you supporting you and kind of nudging you in the right kinds of directions? See, all these things I believe, but you might think it's total bunk. So you're here. I'll just tell you what I believe. I believe, yeah, there are angels all around us. Ancestors probably watching what we're going through, and they've been through it, and they go, yeah, it's tough, you know, and we realized we were going to come here. Before we came here, we knew we were coming. And that's maybe a little deeper than we want to go today. Bottom line is, I got this. It's time to write your book now. Now, why now? Because for me at that time, it was 1978. It was actually it was actually the fall of 1977. And I'd been married, been on a honeymoon to Hawaii. We came back from that honeymoon. My wife became pregnant very quickly. And, you know, 9 months and 15 minutes later, she had this beautiful baby, M.A., gorgeous baby girl. And I'm now a father. And I'm, you know, selling real estate, buying real estate. I got dozens of properties. My cash flows are really thin, you know, making a little bit of money from here and there. And I'm doing this little seminar. I'm teaching this little seminar to just some people in my local city about how to buy real estate with little or no money down. And people are coming and they're spending little bits of money with me, and I'm making a little bit of cash flow because I had to. Well, I was making some money as a real estate, you know, investment counselor, but the chunks of money were few and far between. And I needed some cash flow in the middle. And so I started teaching this little class. And yes, I was a paper millionaire, but I wasn't a cash flow millionaire. And I was paper, what do they call that? Cash poor, paper rich? I don't know, something like that. And I was forced to figure out something. So I'm thinking that's where you're at too, you know? So it's almost like, thank you, the world, for making this such a totally turmoiled place with terror and turmoil everywhere you look. But in the middle of it also, some real goodness and greatness is happening, even in the midst of all these crazy riots and the looting and the stealing. It's just disgusting. I understand why, but I won't say much more about that except to say I have a hard time watching the television. You know, I've been reading books lately, and rather than watching TV, I'd rather build my mind. I mean, a book that I read in the middle of this. How many books have you read in the middle of this pandemic? By the way, how many books have you read? Let's see. This was one I just read. This was given to me for my birthday. It was on May the 20th. And it's 500 pages. Read it. I'd rather than watching TV. The Splendid and the Vile. It's a story of the saga of Churchill, and during the first year of the bombing of Britain by the Nazis. What did they do during that year? Talk about a turmoil. We don't have anything close to what was happening at that time, where they would go to bed at night and they'd hear the air raid sirens, and then they'd wake up the next morning and there'd be another 2, 3, 4, 5,000 people dead. Now imagine living in the middle of that. So love it, because I love Churchill. Anyway, what I'm trying to get to is, what do you want to create during this time? What do you want to leave as a legacy during this time? What greatness do you want to make happen? And for me, it was writing a book. And the book that I wrote was Nothing Down back in 1978. And then it came out in 1980 and became a #1 New York Times bestseller, and it sold millions of copies since, and still sells to this very day. I still get royalties on a book that I wrote 42 years ago. Isn't that crazy? So I had this hunch, and this hunch was, it was time to write another book. And this is the book I wrote. Started it in the last part of January. It took me all of February and March. By the 1st of April, this book was done. Talk about 8 steps to turn your ideas into exponential income. And if some of you are struggling, trying to figure out, how do I make money when the world is turned upside down? People are Googling for the things you know right now inside your head. People are Googling for it right now. And they'll either reach you, or if you're not online, if they can't find you, then your knowledge is stuck inside your head. This diamond mine, this gold mine, I say it, these rivers of wealth you have already in you are stuck, and you can't get them out. So for me, 42 years ago, I got out my knowledge and I wrote a book about it, and it's made me hundreds of millions of dollars since. And whenever I have a hunch to write another book, well, this was the book that I wrote. And I want to give a copy of this to you guys. This one, I'm going to be holding a very special session. You're going to receive an invitation for a special private session next Monday. So that'll be Monday, June the 8th at 6 p.m. Mountain, that's 5 p.m. Pacific. And I'm going to give a copy of this to everybody who shows up there as my gift. But today I'm going to talk about, for those of you who are already involved with a program I've been teaching, I know there's a book in you. And so if I'm not going to help you write it, if I'm not going to help you market it, then I want to tell you the 12 stupid things you're going to do if you want to be an author. Some of you are already authors, and some of you do not have a book in you. And some of you have a book in you and they haven't figured out how to get it out. So for all of you here today, I know that 100% of you should be writing a book sometime in your lifetime. 100%. Why? Well, it's just a legacy of your life. Number one, you've got to write a book about that. Number two, if you're an entrepreneur, that means if you're 1 in 7, 15% of the population, and you have a current business right now, you need a book. because your book can double your sales of your company even during times like this. I'm going to talk about that here today. And number three is, if you're an employee, when you write a book, I want you to notice what happens when you tell somebody you're an author. People look at you differently. They just do. And they look at you like, good for you. You want respect? Write a book. And you say, well, I'm not an author, Bob. Then record it on your recorder. On this Zoom call right now, do you know what's happening on this Zoom call? Not only are you seeing me and you're watching this PowerPoint, but every word I'm saying to you right now is being transcribed. And when I click off and stop this PowerPoint, every word I just spoke to you is written digitally for free. Well, it costs me like $100 a month for my Zoom account, so it's not technically free. But I don't have to send the audio to somebody in India for them to transcribe it for me. Zoom does it. The entire transcript is there. And so I can take that transcript, I can shift that transcript to somebody else to turn it into a cleaner languaging, to turn it into a book. Literally, this is what I'm teaching you today is a chapter of a book. And it's called The 12 Stupid Mistakes That All Beginning Authors Make. So one of these days, you're going to write a book and you're going to make one of these 12 stupid mistakes. More than likely, you'll make more than one of them. Because people, they have these crazy ideas about what an author is and how it really works. And so stupid mistake number one is don't expect your book to make you rich and famous. You know, when you see all these people who sell 1 million copies, like myself included, and you go, that's what I want. And so you work hard to write your manuscript and you try to find a publisher to publish it. And then finally they publish it for you. It might take you 10 years, or maybe you'll make another stupid mistake that I won't talk about here today, but you go hire somebody to publish your book for you, and they charge you $5,000 or $10,000 to organize your book and edit it for you. And a traditional publisher doesn't charge you for doing that. They do the editing and all the marketing and the distribution to the bookstores, and it doesn't cost you any money. In fact, sometimes they'll pay you money. But there are a lot of companies that know people like to be an author, and they go and sell them books. They sell them the publishing so that you can get your name on a cover of a book, and it costs you $10,000. And what do? They say they'll distribute it. Do they? Well, maybe they'll distribute to the bookstores. You know how long it'll last in the bookstore? If a book doesn't take in a bookstore, you get it back in about 30 days, and then you're responsible for selling it. So guess what? Don't expect your book to make you rich and famous. You say, well, why, Robert, should I write a book if it's not going to make me rich and famous? Well, traditionally published books sell 5,000 copies. Self-published, it's 200 copies. Most of these millions of books that are published these days are self-published. And the reason they sell 200 books is because they don't have distribution into the bookstores, but the bookstore numbers are shrinking. And so it's harder to sell a book these days. Don't quit your day job. The royalty from a traditional book is like 15%. So my $20 book at 15% is $3. If it sells 5,000 books, and that's a successful book, sells 5,000, that's $15,000. It's not going to make you rich and famous. So don't go with a traditional publisher. If you've already done it, you know what I'm talking about. More than likely, you'll sell a few thousand copies, and then they control the rights to it. You have to create a platform yourself to market your book online. And then when you have a platform, you can sell your book to any traditional publisher. Right now, with no platform and just you, they won't publish your book. So you got to go get somebody else to publish your book for you, charge you $10,000 for the privilege of that, and still you have to sell it by yourself. So you can get your book published by yourself. You don't need anybody to go publish it for you. You can write it yourself. You can hire a retired English teacher to edit it for you. a lot of these fancy sales pitches are really just people wanting to get their name of a book on a cover. Well, you can do that without spending the 10,000 bucks, okay? So could you make a fortune at this? Yeah, it's possible. Fame, well, maybe if it's important to you. It wasn't really important to me. I just had this hunch, and the hunch was right, because I published my book exactly released in January of 1980. Guess what was happening in 1980? We were just coming out of the recession. Reagan was going to become the president. Things are going to change. The tax laws are going to change. The economy is going to boom over the next 5 years. And my book becomes a #1 New York Times bestseller, is on the bestseller list for 57 weeks, and is selling, and it hits the bestseller list 5 years after it was published again, because of the way we were marketing it, because I had a platform. Okay, so what you want is your book is for influence. Because when you give your book, if you're a business person, you give your book away, you change somebody's life if they read it. And so don't expect it to make you rich and famous. You have to make yourself rich and famous. In other words, you're the one that's responsible for it. And you can do it. Which we'll talk about here and again, right? As my friend John Afra says, a writing book is like having sex. Marketing the book is like raising a child. Yeah, because you got to raise your book. You know, all of these books that I've written, you know, Multiple Streams of Income, The 1 Minute Millionaire, we had to push these books hard. And we had to build a database where tens of thousands of people now, I know they're on my database. That's how you got here. You got here because somehow or other, you ended up on a database that are as my fans, and you said, let's listen to see what Robert has to say. And so the lessons I'm teaching you today, you're going to use for the rest of your life, because you may not write your book for the next 5 years. That's why you need a copy of what I'm going to record. I'm going to record this so you can get a copy of it, and you need to watch it when you get ready to write your book, because you do not want to make these mistakes. You know, mistake number 2 is don't publish with a traditional publisher yet. Just don't. Don't. Why? What's the disadvantages? Well, there are a lot of very big self-published books. 1 Minute Manager by Ken Blanchard, that was 15 million books. Your Erroneous Zones by Wayne Dyer, 35 million books. Celestine Prophecy, 23 million. Rich Dad Poor Dad was originally self-published, now sold 14 million copies. Why do I know that? Because Robert told that to me myself when he and I talked just a few months ago, and he and I spoke in Japan, just he and I invited him to speak with me to 11,000 people in Japan. So great guy. You know, you can have your cake and eat it too. You can self-publish your book, and you don't have to publish with one of these vanity publishers. You can self-publish it. You can put it up on Amazon.com where the royalty is 70%, not 15% or 10% or 5% through a traditional publisher. There's just so many ways to do this by yourself. You can have your cake and eat it too, because once you've created your platform and you've built a database of 1,000, 2,000, 3,000, 5,000, 10,000 people that you have marketed or given away your book to, but you have their contact information. Now you can create your bestseller. Did you get this? So it takes you 2 years, let's say. You write the book, I'll help you, or you can do it by yourself. You write it, it's done, right? You got to go online, you got to create an opt-in page, and you're going to have to give away that book to as many people as you can. You're going to do it on social media. You're going to give away your book. Give it away. You want their contact information. You want that email address. You email the book to them. So it takes you 2 years. So it takes you 3 years. And you're not making a single penny for 3 years. You're just giving away this book to everybody you can give it to. But 3 years from now, you decide you want to write another book, and you create a great title to it. You get ready to publish it. You now have been giving information to your friends over the last couple of years. And you say to them, I'm going to publish a book. Will you help me? This is the day. on Amazon, I need you to buy my book. I'll give you all these other free bonuses. And you create your own #1 bestseller on the #1 bookstore in the world. In your niche, you're a #1 best-selling author. When you introduce yourself to anybody from that point on, you tell them, I'm a #1 author. And you do that because you created it. And stupid mistake number 3, don't write a book about you and your story. Now, when I look at a manuscript, I look at the U-I ratio. And the U-I ratio is how many U's and how many I's in the book. And it's easy to search that out. You search it on your word processing program, and I search for the U, and I see more U's than I's, or I see more I's than U's. If there's I, me, my, mine, that's a weak word. You, yours, we, ours, that's a strong word. In other words, it means your book is talking to the reader. And if you're trying to write your autobiography, hey, some people want to write their autobiography. They feel like it's part of their purpose in life to do that. Do it. Please give it away to your family. That's probably the only people who will buy it. But you want to make sure that your story is sprinkled throughout your information book, your how-to book, so that your story is proof of what you're saying is true. And therefore, you got to use the strong word, not the weak word. And most people, they come up to me and they say, Robert, I've got such a great story to tell the world. You know, it's such fantastic stuff. And they'll rant on about their story. And you and I know nobody really cares about your story. So, yeah, but it could change lives, and maybe it'll change a few. But what you want is a platform of customers who like your content, your information stuff, and who will keep coming back for more and more hit on what you're sharing and what you're teaching, so that eventually you create this empire, this business, this streams of income that flow into you. And 95% of the people that you're giving your information will never send you a single penny, but you change their lives. You have influence. 5%, yeah, they send you money. Some of them want an audio program that you created or some kind of course that you created, and you shot the video, and you can do it right here on Zoom. With nobody watching, you can teach on Zoom, get the recording of it, upload it to your platform, whether it's Teachable or whatever one of the other programs out there, and you can literally create a course like I'm creating it right here with you. And anybody can do this. You know, anybody can do this. So why aren't you doing it? So we're slowing down here. I want to make sure we get through all our mistakes, because there are some real stupid mistakes. Just make sure when you write, if you're going to write your autobiography, don't expect it to make you rich and famous. I want to show you how to be rich and famous and have your autobiography, right? So save your autobiography. Mistake number 4, don't think of your book as just a book. A book is not a book, it's a business. A book needs to have a business attached to it. It's the best business in the world. Even if you're marketing other products, you're in the information business. And if you're marketing any products, if you're in network marketing, for instance, you should be writing a book. If you're in network marketing, you should be giving away this book that teaches people who are searching for an extra stream of income, or searching for health, or searching for whatever your product markets. You should be giving away that book. It generates leads. Those people will stay with you. Some of them will become partners with you. You know, if just 1 in 100 of the books you give away becomes a partner, how many partners do you need for your network marketing business to explode? You need a book, period. And frankly, I'll say that for any business you're in. If you're in the tire business, you need a book. Your customers walk in the door, they need to be a stack of books there on the counter that you've written, that you give to them. Why? Because you give a book, it's a priceless gift. How many books have you ever thrown away in your life? Somebody autographs a book to you and gives it to you. You ever throw away? You never throw it away. Never. Why? Because it's a sin to throw away a book. It's just a sin, you know. Have you ever just actually thrown one away in a garbage can and thought, ooh, just hard to get, it's just hard to do because books have this intrinsic value and the name author has this intrinsic power that you need to understand. And so there are 12 ways to make money from information. Book is just one of them. And it's just a no-brainer, whether it's books or seminars or public speaking or info products. Coaches, many of you are coaches. Do you have a book? What? You don't have a book and you're a coach? Not smart. Consulting? If you want to consult with somebody and they want to pay you big money for your consulting fees, you dang well better have a book because that proves that you're a consultant. Licensing number 7 is when you let somebody else sell your information. And many people have done that for me. I've had 4 or 5 major companies who sold my information, not publishers, but seminar promoters, and I made tens of millions of dollars where they just used my name and I never showed up at any seminar. That's licensing. That's a whole nother conversation. Affiliate marketing, sponsorships, JVs. You got to, JV is once you have a database, then other people with databases want to market products to your database and they'll let you market products to their database. Hello? Fortunes, publishing games, there are just so many ways to do it. So what I'm trying to tell you is the book is not a book, it is a business. And the biggest mistake is that when I got started, I wrote a book without understanding these mistakes that I'm sharing with you. Number one, don't write a single word until you plan your funnel. What's a funnel? Funnel is first they get free information, then they want a little bit more. 90% of the people never spend another dime with you, but 10%, 5 to 10%, they want more. I'm a Tony Robbins fan, okay? So I went to his class in 1996. 1986, actually. It was a bad year for me and I'd lost a whole fortune and we'd lost our house in an avalanche and I was upside down. And I met him doing a show. He and Tony Robbins and Oprah, we were all on a show in Detroit. And I was the star and they were the upcomers. And Tony saw me speak and he talked to me as we were walking out and he said, Robert, there's something incongruent about you. Well, the incongruency, I just had an avalanche that had destroyed my mountain home that had forced me into bankruptcy. And I'm on the show talking about creating wealth. Is that hard to be congruent? See, I didn't understand the transparency stuff that we understand these days. I should have just said that right out in the show, but I was hiding it. I didn't want to appear like a failure. Oh, I'm telling you, I learned so much by that. That bankruptcy, that failure taught me so much. Yeah, it was embarrassing, but it made me into a man. And I don't look at that bankruptcy these days with embarrassment. I look at it as one of the greatest things that ever happened to me. I wouldn't wish it on you. I wouldn't wish it on anybody. I wouldn't wish it on me. But it happened. And what did I have to do? Just like what's going on right now. I was forced to figure out a way out of my hole. I couldn't shrink and go away. I had a family to feed. And so I had to start a whole new seminar operation, and I had to tell them the truth. I remember the first class, 1987, 200, maybe 100 people in the room. They'd spent $1,000 to be there, and I was bankrupt. You know what? I felt really guilty about that. And I said to the audience, I can't tell a lie. I'm more upside down than anybody here in this room. I owe more money to more creditors than everybody in this entire room combined. I'll probably never get out. I'll have to use the information I'm sharing with you right now to get myself out. You know what I thought? I thought that all 100 of those people would come up to me angrily and would demand their $1,000 refund. You know what? I was willing to give it because I was saying to myself, I'm no longer going to be a phony, somebody who says things and it's not true. And so I expected to be broke again. And just the exact opposite happened. They came up to me and they said, finally, someone's telling the truth. Finally, telling that it's a lot harder than people make it out to be. And I said, well, yeah, it kind of is. And these sudden storms happen, and you gotta use the information you already know to dig yourself out, which is what I was doing. And they congratulated me. I was shocked. I was stunned. It was just the total opposite of what I expected. When I told the truth, when I was transparent, they loved me. And I thought they would hate me because I hated myself for some of the stupid mistakes that I had made. And when I came through that, this was 1986, it was a long time ago, but what I'm trying to share with you today here is, you know, when you're stuck in a hole, you have to figure a way out. And you are sitting on information you already know. And you say, well, I don't have time to write a book, Bob. You know, I don't, you know, over the next 90 days, you know, well, I'd like to show you how to do that. But some of you go, well, I don't. So I've just told you what you could do. You could Zoom it right now. You could create a course right with Zoom for free. And then you go online and you offer that to people and you start to build a database and you find a few, 5%, who go, you know, I really need help with this. I don't think I can do this by myself. The rest of them, you teach them to do it by themselves. Let them go do it by themselves. Maybe they can't afford it. At least you've given it, right? And then they want more, and then they want more, and then they want more. And so, like I said, I'm a Tony Robbins fan. So I've been to his seminar in 1986 when I was on that show with Oprah and Tony. And Tony said, you need to come to my seminar. Bobby, you're incongruent. And I was incongruent because I was upside down. And I went to his fire walk. I walked on fire. Yeah, it changed my life. Absolutely. And 20 years later, you know, I went again, 2006. I went again. And I've read his books and I buy his programs. I'm a fan, you know, I'm in his funnel, you know, and of course I'm in a lot of other funnels too. I have a lot of other fans that I follow, people that I watch, I get emails from. I file all those away, all the heroes I'm following. So I'm trying to tell you that one day you are going to be a hero to some people. And you have come through the challenges yourself. So you have earned the right to be their coach, to be their guide. And you create a funnel. The funnel is, we don't even have time to go through this, but the bottom line is it starts off with free and it gets down to the bottom where sometimes it's $25,000 for somebody to hold your hand and literally side by side with you, go all the way to the top of the mountain, sometimes carrying you to the top. But that's very rare. But the bottom line is, this funnel has made me, well, through all the programs I've done, it's been over $1 billion US. And so the funnel looks, you know, here's a $1 million funnel. It has books and then webinars and then seminars and then speeches. You see, everything adds a little bit to the bottom line. And eventually you have serious money. So what is your funnel look like? It'll look like this. You'll have word of mouth, you'll have Facebook ads, you'll have social media, you'll do joint ventures, and you'll give away a free product. If you have a book already now and it's published with a publisher, you don't know what to do with it. This is the funnel you're going to create, you know, and you'll have a free product, and then there'll be a low ticket item. Maybe it's $10, $12, $50, $16. $39, and then there'll be a medium time ticket offer. And many people will never go there. It'll be $100, $500, $1,000, $2,000, whatever. A high ticket item could be more than that. I want you to imagine this is your funnel. This is you. This is what you do. This is how you create and take the ideas that are in your head right now. And stupid mistake number 6, don't make this one. With Nothing Down in Creating Wealth, I didn't have a way to gather their names. So I couldn't build a database. Nothing Down alone sold 1 million copies. If I had put in the book, this is where you can get a free copy of whatever. Just write me a letter, send this. I'll send this tape, this audio, this video, this CD, this special report, this book, whatever. Send me your contact information. What if 100,000 people had read my first book and I got 100,000 names? Then every book thereafter would have been number one. Well, number 2 book was number one. That was Creating Wealth. But number 3 book, it only sold 60,000 copies. But I put the names inside the book. I put a way for them to get their name. And guess what? My 3rd book, which was my worst selling book of all the 12 books I've written, it's the worst selling book. But about 10,000 of those people, maybe 15,000 of those people send me their name. And 5,000 of those people who read my worst selling book, it's called The Challenge. It looks like that. This is The Challenge. This is my worst selling book. But all throughout it, I put these little hints where they can get some pretty good free stuff if they want it. For example, right here on page 36. I want you to see this. I'm trying to teach you a lesson here. This is the actual book. This is what the book looked like. Book was sold to 60,000 people. 15, 20,000 of them sent me because of this right there. See that? The Blue Vase, The Story of the Go-Getter, a fully dramatized, condensed audio version of the book by Peter B. Kind entitled The Go-Getter, a story that tells you how to be one. And I gave away an audio cassette. Well, what did that cost me? I had to print the audio cassette. I had to send it in the mail. It cost backwards and forwards, shipping and handling, $5-10, right? Well, 18 other places in this book, there's another gift I give. When a person, if they didn't want the audio cassette, then a few pages later, they could get the special report. A few pages later, they could get the wall hanging that I was going to give them. This book doesn't look like much. It's the worst title, The Challenge. Do you walk into a bookstore looking for a challenge? I love the name Challenge though, because it's got my name in the middle of it. Alan. So here is, send me to any city, take away send me on an unemployment line, let me select someone who's broke, out of work and discouraged, let me teach them the 2 days time, the secrets of wealth, the 90s, they'll be back on their feet with 5,000 cash in the bank, never to set foot in an unemployment line again. 5,000 of those people who read this book, 5,000 people, came to my 5-day wealth retreat. I no longer do that, by the way, but at that time, it was a wealth retreat where we went into the city and we bought real estate. We worked on their mindset. 5,000 people over the next 2 years. What was the cost of that wealth retreat? $5,000. So what is 5,000 times 5,000? Do the math. $25 million. Do you see the lessons I'm trying to teach you here today? My first 2 books didn't do that. Those were my most famous books, Creating Wealth and Nothing Down. The book you've never heard of before. I learned the lesson from the first 2 books, and I said, let's build a database. No database, no money. Database, and now people who read this book said, will you do that for me? Will you take me out of an unemployment line? Will you work with me for 5 days? Will you coach me, guide me, give me mentors, And we had so many success stories that happened from that seminar, that wealth retreat. What I'm trying to teach is everybody here today is this is your story, It's just knowing how to do it, So you create a platform with 10,000 names, and it guarantees that your next book is #1. Well, back when I wrote this one, Amazon didn't exist. Now I write this book. Now I have a database. I want to be number one at any time I want to be number one on my next book. This next book I want to give you a copy of. It's the book, the Idea to Income book. I want you to have that book. Also, I want you to have a copy of this one. I want you to read this one. Those of you who like real estate, I want to give you a digital copy of this one also. And I want you to join with me next Monday night at 6 p.m. And you're going to receive an email invitation. If you don't receive that invitation, check your spam folder. Some of you have attended a seminar similar to this, so you don't have to come again. We have a few of you who are on this call who are participating in our current program right now, so you'll know that's what we're going to be talking about. But for those of you who have a book and you know you do, then I'm going to challenge you to be there next Monday night, and I'll give you a free copy of these two books. I want you to have a copy of this one, and I want you to have a copy of the Idea to Income book, the 8 steps you need to take. All the steps are included. You know, this one will tell you exactly how to make money in real estate, and it'll tell you how poor people with no credit made $5,000 in 90 days and $100,000 in the next 12 months. It's the full book I want to give to you for those of you who are going to join with us next Monday. Now, I thought as we got into this today that I would be able to finish all 12 of these stupid mistakes, but unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to finish it because we've gone past the hour. I'm going to go into mistakes number 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12 when we get together next time on our Successful People call. In the meantime, I'm going to challenge you to decide what information do you currently possess? Something that's your piece of cake, something that you could easily teach to somebody. You might say to yourself, nobody wants that. Nobody wants to know how to do what it is so easy for me to do. And I can guarantee you that this very second on Google, 10,000 people are Googling for the knowledge that's in your head right now that you think is worthless. And that 10,000 people this very second are searching for a solution for that. And it's urgent to them. And the first person who says to them, I've got a solution for you, will pay money for it because it's urgent. And you don't need credentials, you don't need a degree in psychology or medicine or business or whatever. They don't care about your credentials. They care about your information. And if you give them the free information for free, there's no risk for them. And so they say, yeah, tell me more. And 100 of those people will never give you a dime. But you can still communicate with them. And you can give them free information. You can share with them and you can help them to change their life. And like I said, most people, they'll be your friend. They'll never send you a dime. They might tell a friend about you, or they might, maybe because of your giving and giving and giving and giving and giving, that they'll say, you got to read this book, this new book by Robert, or this old book by Robert. And so I make a royalty when somebody buys my book, Nothing Down. I make about $3. $4.50 actually. It's about $25 now. But it doesn't come for about a year. So if somebody you recommend buys my book today, I will not see a penny for a year. And then they'll gather it all together in a little royalty and they'll send it to me. What I'm trying to say you is, I want you to be in control so that when you wake up in the morning, you push a button to talk to your audience. They love you because of what you know. They'll be appreciative because of what you know. A few of them, a handful, will say, Robert, I've always dreamt of having you be my personal mentor. For you working with Robert closely, that would be really cool. But most people, they don't even think it's possible, so they don't. And the same thing with you. You have a fortune in you. So that book I'm going to give you next week on Monday night at 6 p.m. I'm going to give you also a copy of this one. and some other few little goodies. Don't miss it. I'm going to introduce you to my secret sauce. You know, I'm really good at creating the books and things like that, but I'm not very good at marketing them. So I have a secret sauce. Who markets my stuff for me? I'm going to introduce him to you. You're going to be amazed at the stuff we're going to share with you. We're going to lay some unbelievable stuff on you on Monday night. Monday night, 6 p.m. Mountain, 5 p.m. Pacific. Don't miss it, you know. So let me just go to the end of my PowerPoint. We're going to, next week, I'm going to share with you all the rest of it. This is the book you're going to get this Monday night. All right. And thank you all for being here today. I would be honored if you'd share with me what did you learn today that was valuable to you, that was helpful to you, that took you where you want to be. As you go into the chat here today, I'll look and see what chat's going on. We got 98. Okay, good. Yeah, thank you. I'm glad I didn't give up after the answer. Yeah. You have a fortune in you. Actually, that is a good title. We've marketed that in another way. We picked a different one though. Thank you. You're welcome, Makeda. Aha, the book within. Yeah, there you go, Heshi. There's good for you. Yeah, the information in your heads already is worth a fortune. Everybody's got it. I guarantee you give me 10 minutes with you. And you tell me your life story in 10 minutes. You tell me the things you're good at, you're not good at. Tell me the strengths you have and the weaknesses you have. 10 minutes later, I'll say, here's a fortune, here's a fortune, here's a fortune. You have at least three fortunes in you that you recognize, that you don't recognize, but I do. So building a database with your book, that's your aha, good. In control. You know, 3 stages of life. Stage number 1 is what I call chaos. Most of us are in chaos. After a while, with hard effort and learning so many mistakes from being in chaos, you say, I need to be in control. And so you work hard and you get into control. And that's why the book, The 4 Maps of Happy, Successful People, I'll give that book away on Monday night also. 4 Maps of Happy, Successful People, 4 skills, how to get into control. But that's not the ultimate of life. Yeah, you got to get in control. But the ultimate goal is to be, and this is the hardest one to teach, and I'm still struggling with it, is to be in surrender. Surrender is the ultimate type of control, where you give up your control. And you have the control to give it up. So in control, you give up your control. And you say, I surrender. Now that doesn't mean you're giving up. That doesn't mean giving up. No. No, when you give up, that's different. You know me, I'm not a giver-upper. Never give up, never give up, never give up, never give up, never, 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 never. However, surrender, oh, it's so powerful. Because you're surrendering to your higher power and you say, you know where I'm going, you know my strengths, you know my weaknesses. You know how the places where I'm stupid, and I'm stupid. And I'm just going to learn how to surrender. I haven't done it yet, folks. I'm not there. I'm not there. But I know I have to get there eventually. Isn't that what life is all about? Where eventually you start off as a kid, you're young, and you're teenagers, and you've got all this, energy for yourself, and then you're in control, and then you get married, and you realize, oh my gosh, that's a different experience, and I got to learn how to surrender in my relationships, and then to my children, and then finally you realize as you get older, you're not in control of anything. Even every breath, you have the control to take it, but the very next breath could be gone. So you finally have to say, okay. Thank you for letting me come to Earth and learn that your way is the best way. I tried my way, like the Frank Sinatra song, My Way. But my way was okay, but a lot of it was not good. So how do you finally get so on my knees every day when I read my sacred words that I read every day? I surrender every morning. And I say, you're so much wiser than me. The least I could do is to read some of the words you had written for all of us to read. That's the least I can do. And I will read those wise words every day. And so the rest of my day, I go back into control. I got to control all the stuff that's going on. But the real truth is, we're not in as much control as we think we are, right? So, Elizabeth, thank you. Life is good. Even though the airwaves are filled with life is bad. I look out my window and I see the flowers, the trees, the mountains. Life is good. God is good. My friends, I love you. It's my honor to share what I know with you. God bless us all to surrender.
We love you too, Bob.
Thank you, everybody.
This is wonderful.
On Monday night, for those of you, watch for that email. Don't miss that. I'll open up let's open it up. So we'll unmute everybody.
Thank you, Bob. Love you.
Thank you, Bob. That was wonderful.
I was driving across I-80.
God bless you.
Thank you. First time, and I really enjoyed it.
Thank you. We love
Hey,
you.
everybody.
Buy a few of your books.
Bob,
I bought a few of your books.
wow.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Bob. Love you.
You are a
I
good
bought a
teacher.
few of your books.
What was that question?
So are you engaged?
All right, Romina, where are you coming from, Romina?
Well, do you guys want to stop by?
It does, and thanks so much. This wasn't what I expected, and
I know you, brother.
do a lot.
Bob, is it 6 p.m.?
Are you on
Wait, is it
75?
PST?
Hey, Jack.
Yes, PST.
There's
Right.
Charles. I
Okay.
recognize the names there.
Did you take
Angelica. Good to see
did you get on did you get on an Archer Road on 75 or did you get on Willis at Wilson?
Well, we had a good audience on today. I hope that was valuable to you.
Yes.
It was. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Just loved it. Awesome, Bob.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Bob.
Bob.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
If you got on
Thank
an
you.
Archer
I'm just learning about Zoom. So.
Learning about Zoom. Well, welcome. Now you're doing it right now, brother.
I have a couple of your books.
Okay.
Oh, hey.
Yeah, I will.
I made $3 for every one of those.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you. Yes, you too, Mom.
You know what the greatest funny story
All right.
is?
Love you
I
too.
Yeah, I'll text it
one
to you
of my
right
favorite
now.
fans is in Japan.
Bye. Okay.
And his name is Tetsuya. Tetsuya read my book at a used bookstore when he was homeless in a park in the middle of Tokyo. And somebody recommended, another homeless person recommended he go to a bookstore and read Multiple Streams of Income. So he went to a used bookstore. He found Multiple Streams of Income. The price on it was too high. It was like $5, you know. And so he went to another book in the used bookstore, changed the price tag from $5 to $1. So he basically ripped it off and bought my book, Multiple Streams of Income. Today he's a multimillionaire. He was the one who, talk about how things come around. So this homeless man in Tokyo reads my book at a used bookstore. A few years later, he introduces me to a publisher in Japan. He introduces me. The publisher says, I've always wanted to have a big audience with Robert Kiyosaki and you. And he said, I'll pay for Robert Kiyosaki to come speak. And 11,000 people showed up for me, just me and Robert Kiyosaki. We spent the entire day with 11,000 people. You know how that happened? From a homeless guy in the middle of Tokyo. So you just never know where your book is going to go. You never know who's going to get it. I didn't make a penny on that book, that from the royalties from the book, is I'd already earned it. Somebody else gave it away. But I earned $250,000 from that speech. So you just never know where things come around and go around. So, all right. The answer is yes, I am. Gail's asking me a question. All right, everybody. Any ahas you have, you can always email me, bestsellerbob@gmail.com. Don't share that with anybody else. And I love you. Have a great day, everyone. See ya. God bless. Bye-bye.